There are people who live inside a house without ever truly living in it. Nathan Calloway was one of those people. He stood in the kitchen one evening, holding his phone with both hands, staring at the screen as if the right words might appear on their own. Finally, he called. "Camille, are you coming home tonight?" The silence that followed lasted longer than it should have. He tried again, softer. "Please, just tell me if you will eat dinner at home." Her voice came through sharp and cold, like a door slamming shut on a winter night. "I am busy, Nathan. Do not wait for me." "You have been busy for 3 days," he said. "Work is something you clearly do not understand." "I have meetings." "I also work there," he replied quietly. She paused just long enough for it to feel deliberate. "Not at my level." That line landed differently. Not like an insult exactly, but like a reminder that he had forgotten his place. He said, "I just want some time with you. Stop acting like a child. We are married, Camille. Marriage does not mean I abandon my career. I am not asking you to abandon anything. Then do not ask anything." He clenched the phone. "Your mother told me I should be grateful just for being here. Then be grateful and stop complaining." His chest tightened. "I feel like I live alone even though I have a wife." "You are overthinking everything." "When was the last time we had dinner together?" he asked. "I do not remember. I am not keeping track." He whispered, "I am." Silence. Then she said, "Nathan, I am in a meeting. Goodbye." He said, "Wait, Camille," but the call was already gone. He stood there looking at the blank screen and said to the empty kitchen, "Every day feels exactly the same." He sat down at the table he had set for two and moved one plate aside. He told himself she might change someday. That thought had gotten smaller every week, but he held onto it the way people hold onto habits they know are not good for them. His phone rang. It was Daniel, his colleague and one of the few people who still spoke to him like a person. "Bro, you coming to the office early tomorrow?" "Same as always," Nathan replied. "You sound tired, man." "I am just fine." "I know that kind of fine," Daniel said carefully. Nathan forced a short laugh. "See you tomorrow." After the call, he looked around the room. The furniture was expensive, the lighting warm, the walls perfectly decorated. It looked like a home in a magazine. It felt like a hotel. He walked to the window and said quietly, "I married someone I can no longer reach." Later that night, his phone rang again. It was Dorothy Hale, Camille's mother, calling with the tone she always used with him, one that carried neither warmth nor patience. "Nathan, stop disturbing Camille with your emotional drama." "I only asked her about dinner," he replied. "Dinner is not your concern. Your concern is supporting her work." "I am trying." "She has no time for weakness." He swallowed. "I am not weak." She laughed, soft and dismissive. "Then act like it." He said nothing for a moment. "Do you think I matter in this family?" She paused as if genuinely considering it. "You matter as long as you do not create problems." The call ended. He stood in the hallway and whispered, "So I am only useful when I stay silent." The next morning, he arrived at the office earlier than usual. Daniel spotted him immediately. "You look worse today," Daniel said. "I did not sleep much." "Was she not home again?" Nathan nodded once. Daniel sighed. "I told you before, she has always been like this. I keep thinking she will change." "Hope is dangerous when it is the only thing keeping you going," Daniel said. Nathan looked through the glass wall at the city below. "Maybe you are right." In the elevator, alone, the doors closed and he said under his breath, "Something is breaking inside me." He did not know how to name it properly. He only knew it had been breaking for a long time. On the floor, he saw Camille walking toward the conference room. "Good morning, Camille." She looked at him the way someone looks at furniture placed slightly in the wrong spot. "Keep it professional, Nathan." "Understood." Daniel appeared beside him a moment later. "Man, this is getting worse every day." "I know," Nathan said. He watched her disappear into the meeting room and thought, clearly and without drama, that he could not keep living like this. Something inside him had shifted, quietly, the way a lock clicks open. He made himself a promise. He would no longer wait for love that was never really offered. He would start watching. Listening. Finding every answer that had been kept from him. That same week, there was a company gala. Nathan arrived with Camille, trying to stay close. She moved through the room like she was born for it, shaking hands, laughing at the right moments, owning every conversation. Before they entered the main hall, he caught her. "Can we sit together tonight?" "Follow the protocol. I will join you later." "You always join later." She glanced at him. "Stop complaining in public." For photographs, she stood beside him, held his arm, smiled like everything was perfect between them. He stood there smiling too, because that is what you do, but inside he thought, nobody sees what happens after the cameras stop. Then he noticed a man across the room. Tall, confident, the kind of man who does not need to try for a room's attention because he already has it. Nathan watched Camille move toward him before he could say anything. He followed slowly. "Camille." She turned. "Stay here." "Why?" "Business talk." He stayed where he was and watched them. The man, whose name he would learn was Cole Brixton, leaned in close and said something. Camille smiled in a way Nathan had not seen in months. Maybe years. When she returned, he said quietly, "You looked happy with him." "Do not embarrass me with jealousy," she snapped. "I was just asking." "Then stop asking." They went home without speaking. Inside, he tried once more. "You were different with him." She removed her shoes without looking up. "I was working." "That was not work." She turned, her voice precise, almost rehearsed. "Do not judge my professional life. I am your husband. You are my responsibility," she said. "Not my distraction." He let the words settle. "So I am a responsibility now." She walked upstairs. "I have another meeting." Nathan sat alone in the living room and thought, even when she is here, she is not here. The pattern had become clear to him now. The silence. The excuses. The version of Camille who smiled at galas and the version who barely acknowledged he existed at home. He had spent too long trying to close the distance between those two women. He had cooked dinners that went cold, made calls that ended too fast, waited in rooms that were never shared. He stopped waiting. Nathan was refilling his water in the office kitchen one evening when Priya walked in and set her bag on the counter with the exhaustion of someone who had been carrying it too long. "Late again," he said. "Always," she replied. She looked at him the way people look at someone they recognize without fully knowing. "You cook, don't you?" "Someone mentioned it." He smiled slightly. "Nobody eats it." She said nothing for a moment. Then, quietly, "Some people in this building see more than they are supposed to. It gets heavy." She picked up her bag and walked out. He stood there and thought, that was an odd thing to say. But he did not forget it. He stopped cooking for two. He stopped texting first. He stopped sitting by the door listening for her car. The shift was quiet, internal, almost invisible from the outside. But it was real, and it was permanent. At the office a few nights later, staying even later than usual, he passed through the corridor on his way back from the kitchen. The building was almost completely quiet. Most lights had been switched off. But as he walked, he noticed the same desk still had its lamp on. Priya's desk. The same woman who had said something he still had not forgotten. He almost walked past. Then he noticed the folder lying open in front of her empty chair. He stopped. He stepped closer. He read his own name. "What is this file?" he said under his breath. He opened it carefully and began reading. His name appeared in a section titled Restructuring. His position marked for removal. Below that, a second document, a merger strategy with a transition plan that listed him under the column marked Support Structure. A voice said behind him, "Nathan, you were not supposed to see that." He turned. Priya stood in the doorway, a coffee cup in her hand, her face gone pale. "What is going on?" he asked. She stepped forward slowly. "It is internal planning. Nothing personal. My job position is marked for removal. Please calm down." Do not tell me to calm down when my name is inside this. He flipped through more pages. Merger strategy. My name is in the transition plan, too. Priya lowered her voice. I should not be telling you any of this. Then why is my name part of it? She said carefully, you are not the main focus. You are listed as a support structure. Support structure for what? She hesitated, deciding how much was safe to say. For public stability. He stepped back. Explain that clearly. Your marriage, she said softly, is listed as emotional balance for the CEO's public image. The room felt very still. So I am part of a business image. It was not a question. I am sorry, she said. He did not answer her. He looked back at the documents. Everything he had believed about his life sat there in black ink, organized into columns and sections, clean and corporate and completely without feeling. I need to see her, he said. Do not confront her like this, Priya warned. He gathered the pages. I already saw enough. He walked toward the exit and called Daniel. I need you. What happened? Everything is falling apart. Come here now. Nathan drove with shaking hands. He said to himself in the dark car, she built a life where I was just a piece. All those silent nights. All of it planned. When he arrived at Daniel's apartment and the door opened, Daniel looked at him the way people look at someone who has just come in from a storm. You look destroyed, Daniel said. I saw the truth, Nathan replied. They sat together and Nathan laid the documents on the table. Daniel went through them slowly, his expression shifting from doubt to quiet alarm. Where did you get these? Priya's desk. The folder was open. Nathan, this is serious. Tell me something I do not already feel. Daniel set the papers down. You need to stay quiet about this. If Camille finds out you saw these, she will move against you. She already did, Nathan said. She just did not tell me. That night, Nathan went home. He found Camille in the study. Do you love me? He asked. She did not look up. Love is not part of this marriage arrangement. Something in his chest stopped moving. Say that again. You hurt me. What am I to you? He asked. You are part of my stability plan. I am a plan. Do not turn this into emotions. I am your husband. You are a role in my life structure. That sounds like a job description, he said. She finally looked at him. Stop being dramatic. I am not dramatic. I am breaking. Then fix yourself. He left the room and stood in the hallway and said to no one, something inside me is completely gone. The next day he sought out Dorothy Hale. He found her in the lobby, on her way out. Dorothy, I need to speak with you. She barely slowed down. Make it fast. Do you think my marriage is real? She laughed, short and without warmth. Real. This is business, Nathan. So I am just a tool. You are fortunate to be included. He watched her walk away and said under his breath, no one here sees me as a person. That night, sitting with Daniel, Nathan said, I am done staying silent. What are you planning? Truth. Daniel shook his head. Truth will burn everything. Then let it burn. You are talking like a man ready to lose everything. I already lost it, Nathan said, the moment she told me love was never part of our arrangement. Daniel looked at him for a long time. Once you start this, there is no going back. There was never a way back for me, Nathan said. He stood and walked to the door. Daniel called after him, just survive this. Nathan paused with his hand on the door. I am not trying to survive anymore. I am trying to wake up. He opened it. And I am finally awake. Priya came to him 2 days later. She closed the office door and said quietly, I found something else. Tell me. Cole Brixton is not planning to keep Camille after the merger is complete. Once he secures control, he intends to push her out entirely. Nathan was still for a moment. She is helping him, and he is going to discard her. Yes. That is cold. Business often is, Priya said. He looked at the ceiling. So I was not the only one being used. You were just earlier in the chain. He said slowly, do not tell her anything yet. Priya frowned. You are not going to warn her? Not yet. That is dangerous. So is trusting the wrong people, he said. Later, Daniel came to his desk with a look that meant something was coming. He pulled a chair close and lowered his voice. I knew about parts of Cole's plan. Not everything. Just rumors, and I told myself they were not real. Nathan looked at him steadily. And you said nothing. I was scared. Losing my job. Getting involved. So you let me walk into it without knowing anything. I am sorry, Daniel said. Nathan did not speak for a long time. Sorry does not change what happened. But I am not angry at you. I am just done expecting honesty from people who were never going to give it. At home that evening, Camille said to him, you do not look at me the same way. I see you clearly now, he replied. What does that mean? It means I stopped waiting for you to become someone who cares. Something shifted in her expression. That is not true. It feels true to me. She said, you are changing. Yes. Finally. I do not like this version of you. He looked at her calmly. I do not need you to. She went quiet. He walked away. And he thought to himself, that was the first time I said something honest and felt completely at peace afterward. The board meeting arrived without ceremony. Nathan walked in and took his seat. Camille stood at the head of the table, composed as always. Halfway through her presentation, she glanced at him and said, Nathan, try to stay focused today. A few people smiled politely. I am focused, Nathan said. Your recent behavior in the office suggests otherwise. Emotional instability does affect performance. The room went uncomfortably still. My behavior, he said. I am simply calling it what it is. He kept his voice level. Continue the meeting. She smiled slightly. You see. This is exactly what I mean. He said nothing more for the rest of the session. He sat and watched and thought, she just tried to erase me in front of everyone who matters in this building. And she did it on purpose. After the room began to empty, he stepped into the hallway. A man approached him, tall, calm, carrying a leather folder. Nathan, the man said. A moment. Who are you? Richard Osei. Senior legal advisor. What do you want? Richard lowered his voice. You are sitting on evidence that constitutes major corporate fraud. You know this. Yes. Then why are you waiting? Because I am deciding how far this goes, Nathan said. This is not about emotions anymore. This is about legal exposure, forged approvals, manipulated transfers, identity misuse. If you hold this correctly, you control the outcome. And if I do not, then someone else will, Richard said simply, and you will not be on the right side of it. That night, Nathan spread the files across his desk. Priya sat across from him and went through each document. Forged financial approvals bearing his signature on transactions he had never seen. A merger manipulation strategy that used his name to fast-track internal clearances. Transfer records tied directly to Cole Brixton's network. All of this leads back to Cole, Nathan said. And indirectly to Camille, Priya replied. She signed off on a world built from lies. Priya hesitated. Or she was pushed into it and did not see how deep it went. Does it matter at this point? He asked. She looked at him gently. To you, maybe. He sat back. If I expose everything, what happens? Everything collapses. The merger falls apart. The board investigation begins. Her career ends. And me. You will be part of the fallout, too. There is no clean outcome. He was quiet for a moment. I thought I wanted revenge. And now? Now I want something true, he said. Even if it costs everything. The night before the merger event, Nathan sat in his car outside the office building for a long time. He thought about the dinners he had cooked alone. The calls she had ended too quickly. The file with his signature on things he had never agreed to. The way she had smiled at Cole Brixton from across a ballroom as though Nathan had never existed at all. He got out of the car and went back inside. Priya was still at her desk. Richard Osei waited in the corner with his folder. Daniel paced near the window. Final preparations, Richard said. Prepare everything for the boardroom release, Nathan replied. All of it. Priya said, security will try to stop you. Let them try. Daniel said, you are not the same person who walked into this building a year ago. Nathan looked at him. I am finally the real one. The merger event was held in the company's main boardroom on a Thursday morning. The room was full. Board members sat around the long table. Investors lined the walls. Cole Brixton sat beside Camille at the front, relaxed, confident, the look of a man who believes the conclusion has already been written. Camille began her presentation, clear and controlled, each slide advancing like a choreographed performance. Nathan sat near the back. He waited. Then he stood. I have something for the board to see, he said. The room went quiet. Play the first recording. The screen changed. Documents appeared. Audio began. Richard Osei stepped forward and confirmed each piece of evidence with legal precision. Financial approvals bearing Nathan's forged signature. Internal transfers tied to Cole's network. A strategy document outlining how Nathan's identity had been used to push through clearances that would never have been approved otherwise. The room erupted. Cole stood and said Nathan was lying. Nathan looked at him calmly. The evidence is already playing. You can sit down. Cole tried again. Richard cut across him with quiet authority. The documentation has been verified externally. Board members were on their feet. Questions came from every direction. Nathan stood in the middle of it all and felt something he had not expected. Not triumph. Not relief. Just a strange, hollow stillness, like a storm that had finally broken and left everything behind it very quiet. He looked at Camille. She stood at the front of the room, very still, watching him. The composure she had carried her entire life had cracked at the edges. For the first time, he saw something else in her face. Not the cold efficiency. Not the practiced control. Something rawer. Something that looked almost like the beginning of understanding, arriving far too late. For the first time, he said quietly, you see me. Cole was escorted from the room by security. The board chair called for an emergency session. Richard moved to handle the legal documentation. The room emptied in stages, loud and disorganized, the way rooms go when truth arrives without an invitation. Eventually it was just Nathan and Daniel left in the corridor outside. You just changed everything, Daniel said. I changed myself first, Nathan replied. Priya appeared beside him. Was it worth it? He looked back through the glass wall at the empty boardroom. I will know later, he said. She finally saw me. Just too late. The weeks that followed moved the way aftermath always does, slowly at first, then all at once. Cole Brixton's removal was processed quickly. The board voted against Camille's continued leadership after the investigation began in earnest. Dorothy Hale lost influence over the company she had spent decades shaping. It all came down like something that had been waiting to fall for a very long time. Camille came home that night. The last time, as it turned out. She stood in the hallway, not cold, not sharp, not composed. The version of her that had walked through every room of this house like she owned the air inside it was simply gone. What remained was quieter, and heavier, and somehow smaller. She did not speak for a long time. Neither did he. When she finally looked at him, her eyes held something he had never seen in them before. Not quite regret. Something beneath regret. The particular pain of a person who has only just understood what they had, now that it is completely beyond reach. I did not think you would fight back, she said. He looked at her steadily. You never saw me at all. She stood there a moment longer. Then she walked past him up the stairs, and he let her go. She left the next morning. She did not take everything. She did not say much. She simply went, and the house was very empty afterward, and somehow also lighter. Months passed. Nathan left the company and joined a smaller firm where Priya had already established herself. The work was different, less prestigious, simpler in many ways, and he was surprised to find he preferred it. Daniel apologized properly one evening over coffee. Nathan accepted it. But some distances, once opened, do not fully close, and they both understood that without needing to say it. The city carried on. The press covered the merger collapse for several weeks and then moved on to the next story. Dorothy Hale gave no public statement. Cole Brixton pursued legal defense quietly. Camille disappeared from public view entirely. Nathan thought about her sometimes. Not with anger, not with the ache that had lived in his chest for so long he had stopped noticing it. Just with a kind of clear-eyed recognition, the way you think about a chapter that taught you something you could not have learned any other way. He did not destroy her. He understood that clearly. She had made her choices long before he made his. He had only stopped being invisible long enough to let the truth speak for itself. One evening, she found him. He was sitting outside at a small table with a coffee going cold beside him when she appeared. She sat down across from him without asking. They were quiet for a moment. "Everything is gone," she said. "You chose it," he replied. "I did not think it would end like this. You had every warning. You just never looked long enough to see them." She was quiet. "Then, do you hate me?" "No," he said. "I stopped carrying that a long time ago. What am I to you now?" He thought about it honestly. "A lesson I finally understood." She looked at the table. "That is cruel. Truth is not always kind," he said. "But it is always honest." She asked if he would ever forgive her, and he said that forgiveness requires a past you can return to, and he had left that past behind. She asked about them, and he said they had ended long before she noticed. She left without another word. He sat with his cold coffee and watched her go, and felt no pull to call her back. Daniel found him a few days later and said simply, "That looked final." "Yes," Nathan said. "Do you feel free now?" Nathan considered the word. Freedom was quieter than he had imagined it would be. It did not arrive with fireworks or the sharp satisfaction he had expected. It arrived the way mornings do after a long illness, gently, undramatically, and with the particular warmth of something earned. For the first time, he said, "Yes." He stopped being the man who sat alone at a dinner table waiting for someone who was never coming. He stopped being the man whose name appeared in other people's plans without his knowledge or consent. He stopped being the piece in a structure someone else had designed. He became something quieter. Something real. He walked out of the office one afternoon into a city that had not changed and a life that had changed completely. The sun was lower than he expected. The air was cooler. He had no plans for the evening, and for the first time in years, that felt like exactly enough. He had stopped being invisible. Not because he had shouted loudly or burned something down. But because he had finally stood still long enough to look at himself clearly and decided that what he saw was worth something. He had stopped being no one's anything. He had started being his own. And that, in the end, was the only thing that had ever mattered.